Welcome to Herbally Yours, an adventure into the world of natural medicine. Here is your host, Dr. Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse who will help you take the leap to ultimate wellness.
Greetings, and thank you for joining me, Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, for another edition of Herbally Yours, right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Herbally Yours brings you the latest information about the many facets in the world of natural living. We are so happy to have on board as our guest today, Dr. Sarah. And Dr. Sarah Lobisco is a naturopathic doctor, and she's a graduate of the University of Bridgeport College of Naturopathic Medicine. She is licensed in Vermont as a naturopathic doctor and has earned her certification in functional medicine through the Institute of Functional Medicine. Dr. Lobisco also holds a Bachelor of Psychology from State University of New York, UNESCO, and an Applied Kinesiology certification. She's a speaker on integrative health and has several publications and does independent contracting for companies regarding supplements, nutraceuticals, essential oils, and medical foods. Dr. Lobisco currently incorporates her training as a naturopathic doctor and functional medicine practitioner through writing, teaching, private practice, and through her independent contracting work. She maintains her private wellness consultation practice through virtual consultations, and she enjoys continuing to educate and empower her readers through her many blogs and social media. And you can find her at dr-lobisco.com, lovely website. And of course, Dr. Lobisco, we will have a live link to those people who visit our archive after hearing our show. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me here, Ellen. It's an honor to be here.
Now, you obviously, like myself, you're kind of an addict for studying, because that's a long list of certifications. What brought you to decide to become a naturopathic physician?
It actually happened, I think, like a lot of people who enter the holistic medicine world, sort of by accident. And I had been into conventional medicine for a long time. I was going to be a physician assistant. And what ended up happening is in my path, which had twists and turns, and I was going to then pursue pharmacy and then nursing, and I injured my back. And I was working as a pharmacy technician at the time, and my mother got interested in essential oils because she was going through menopause. And I looked at her and I thought she was absolutely crazy and insane. And I said, Mom, what are you doing? You can't use these. They're not FDA approved. You don't know what the side effects are. But I had to admit, when I saw her using the essential oils and when she started using them and incorporating them into our life and with her friends, they were seeing results that I wasn't seeing in conventional care. And after convincing me to at least look at a desk reference with essential oils so I could see the science, and after I read the whole textbook, because I wouldn't let her touch me with them until I saw the science, I tried them. And I had been in pain for so long, and they provided relief rather quickly. And also, as you know, Ellen, when people are in chronic pain, their mood suffers a lot. And they really help my mood really quickly. And I wanted to see and learn how these essential oils worked. And I wanted to share that with others and also take my interest in medicine. So that brought me into naturopathic medicine.
Wow, that's an interesting story. So the essential oils brought you to become a naturopathic physician rather than it being one of the many, many things that you have studied under naturopathy.
Yes, they brought me to naturopathic medicine school, and then there opened up my world to all different modalities and herbs and natural approaches and lifestyle and food. And it was a wonderful journey.
And continues to be, I'm sure. So we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into essential oils, since that is a specialty of yours. But since you also threw out herbs and botanicals, I think that's a mistake that I see many people make, is if they are familiar, let's say, with a particular herb, and then they purchase the essential oil made from the same plant, and they use it in a similar way, which is a big mistake, because the botanical process of extraction is very, very different than in most aromatherapy cases where we're using distillation. Would you agree?
That is a wonderful, astute point. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, the constituents that are extracted through making the herbs versus distilling the volatile or aromatic compounds that evaporate from essential oils is a different process, and you get a different result.
And different chemical structures. And
different chemicals, yes.
Right, which have different actions. And that's something why it would be great to speak to someone like yourself who's so highly trained in both the chemistry, the action, the reason one might want to use, let's say, essential oils or not, depending on what's going on. Some people don't even know at all that any natural therapy can have any kind of negative effect. Yet in terms of essential oils in particular, which I think are fabulous, and we'll talk about how wonderful they can be, I know there are really issues, for instance, with cats, that when people see their cat have a skin issue and they use something like tea tree oil on them, it can really be quite toxic, because the cat's going to lick it. Cats
have a decreased ability to detoxify certain essential oil compounds, especially those high in phenols. They have one of the liver pathways called glucuronidation is lower in cats. So it's not that you have to completely avoid all essential oils in cats, but you do have to be mindful that their process for detoxifying certain ones. If you think of the strong spice oils, it's probably a good guide, or citrus oils, or Ellen, like you said, tea tree oil. You just have to be mindful that they can handle a very, very, very low dose. And it takes a while for them to get all of the essential oil out of their body. So what I tend to do with my cat, who's 15, she's been around oils her whole life. I diffuse in one room, and then I always leave the doors open so the cat can come in and come out. And the animals kind of tell you when they have enough. And I never apply directly an essential oil to my kitty.
Well, you just used another great vocabulary word that you know what it means, and I know what it means, but not all our listeners do. And I just want to remind our listeners that you are listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ellen Kamai, the natural nurse, and today my guest is with us, not in studio, but she's here online, and her name is Dr. Sarah Lobisco. She's a naturopathic doctor and studied at the University of Bridgeport, and she's an expert in many areas, all things natural. And today we are focusing on one of her favorite natural interventions, which is essential oils. So you threw out a word, Dr. Sarah, which is, you said, just threw it off the top of your head because it's so common to you. You said you diffuse an oil in a room. What does that mean, and how would one do that?
So you can purchase, they call them essential oil diffusers. And it is basically an atomizer. I get the ones that are specific there. You can find them. They're called atomizers. And what they do is you put some water in the diffuser and you put essential oils in, and you turn on this machine, and essential oils vapor comes out. And I specifically like the atomizer versions because those keep the compounds and constituents intact, and they have a more even distribution. And I always use cold air diffusing because you don't want to use any heat with essential oils. It can destroy the therapeutic compounds. Most of them are cold distillation. So you want to keep, especially if you're using them for healing and health purposes, you definitely want to get the cold air diffusers.
That's really interesting. That's a great explanation, because one of the things I do, let's say I'm just staying in a hotel or something and I have some essential oil with me, and this would be less for a therapeutic, but more for a relaxing scent. And we'll talk about why essential oils are not just for scent. But I will often just put some on my finger and put it on a lamp and then turn it on. And, with no fancy atomizers around, it actually does go into the room as a scent. But what you're saying is that would not be the best therapeutic use, because it's the heat of the lamp or the bulb that's creating, the effect on the essential oil.
Right. And we can get into this a little later. There's different ways that essential oils have their therapeutic properties.
Oh, wait. Let's get into it now. It's a perfect segue.
Yeah. So one is the aromatic properties that you talked about. Just through smell alone, we know that the sense of smell goes directly. There's usually with our senses, the other four senses have to go through a relay station in the brain for the body to process it and then kind of figure out in the nervous system what it's going to do with that input. Whereas with aroma, it goes directly into the emotional part of the brain and you get an instantaneous response. And that's why essential oils and aromas are so powerful for shifting our emotions. It's the only sense that does that has a direct link. So when you're getting the smell of the essential oil, you get that component to enhance the mood and, like, as you said, promote relaxation. What you wouldn't get when you use heat is you wouldn't get the therapeutic compounds that are also changing your physiology at the same time. So as they're balancing your mood, essential oils, they have actions on hormones, on neurotransmitters, on modulating inflammatory pathways. They have antimicrobial actions. They have antioxidant actions. They can interact with different receptors in our body to change pathways and promote detoxification or whatever the body needs. So all that's going on at the same time. So if you were to just use the aroma, like I said, you'd get the emotional component. But when you combine them both with a therapeutic essential oil that has all those constituents intact, it's a lot more powerful, because you're getting the emotion with the physiology shift, with the psychology, biochemistry all in one. And what I do is I get Ellen, you can get these little tiny travel diffusers, and they're battery powered, and you don't use any water in them. They just come with like a little cotton insert, and you just put the essential oil on there and you turn it on. And there's a little fan that blows the essential oil. So that's one way. Or I take cotton balls, and this is kind of a cheap diffusion. You can put a cotton ball with a couple of drops of essential oils on a high place, like on a cupboard or in a cupboard, and that'll still keep it intact, and it'll diffuse through the room as well.
Well, I'd like to remind our listeners that you're listening to Herbally Yours on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Listen live or online at nccradio.org or on iHeartRadio. For more information on today's guest or topic, send us an email at whpc@ncc.edu. And thank you so much for joining us today. We are here with our guest, Dr. Sarah Lobisco, naturopathic physician. Dr. Sarah, what are these words IFMCP after your name? What do those stand for?
Oh, Certified Institute for Functional Medicine Certified Practitioner.
That's no easy task, because those are very, very high-level courses, and it takes a long time to be certified.
Yeah, it was a great program. It took a couple years for me. You have to go through several modules and have to take exams and do a case study. So it was worth it. I learned a lot.
I really enjoy when people go through that. I remember when Dr. Jeffrey Bland was beginning that program many years ago, because Dr. Serafina Corsella, who I was working with at the time, and he were describing how would we put together a program so people would truly understand functional medicine. What is functional medicine?
Functional medicine is based on getting to the root cause. Has a very similar philosophy of naturopathic medicine, where it's patient focused, getting to the root cause of the disease, and it treats the patient as an individual and looks at how they're different in their biochemistry and all of the different factors that make them healthy. Functional medicine uses a system-based approach, which means it looks at all the different body systems and how they interact, and it has models and tools that help a practitioner think through the processes to get to the root cause, as I said, of the disease, and also what can be contributing to the disease or making it, or what kind of the person's vulnerabilities are that set them up to have the disease. And it's all on the base of lifestyle too, to help. Once you get those foundations of health in place, it's a lot easier to balance the body systems.
So I would call that good medicine. I would call that evidence-based medicine. And one of my goals is getting that to be standard of practice, because if you listen to what Dr. Sarah just described, it's almost the antithesis of what we now do in mainstream conventional medicine, which is, instead of look at the whole picture, try to dissect it as much as possible. And you only go to a rheumatologist for your joint pain and a pulmonologist for your lung issues. It's exactly opposite.
Yeah, I mean, for acute care, it's wonderful.
Oh, excellent. Sure.
Yeah, you're treating the major issue. But if we just keep band-aiding, the symptom and don't get to the root cause, it can create havoc, and someone never fully gets healed.
Well, let's look back at aromatherapy, because you have spent so much time delving into it, and it even was your entry into becoming so well-versed in this entire field. Let's talk about some specific aromatherapy or essential oils that you think anybody should have at home, and how they would use it and why.
Okay. Probably the basic ones would be lavender, peppermint, and a citrus oil. So those are the top three. I think lavender is most well known for its effect on relaxation. And there's clinical studies actually with lavender and its efficacy for anxiety. There's actually a specific medication that they use in Europe that's branded with the constituents, two of the main constituents in lavender, standardized to those constituents, and it's marketed as a drug for anxiety. And it's been put up against, in trials against other anti-anxiety medications and in peer-reviewed placebo-controlled studies. So lavender is pretty powerful for that. And I know, especially during these times that we're in, a lot of people are struggling with stress and anxiety. Lavender is great for that. It also helps with sleep. Lavender has many different actions. It's called the universal oil. There's hundreds of different constituents in one drop of lavender oil. And this is true for most essential oils. That's why they have so many different actions, because when they distill the essential oil, they distill all these different volatile compounds that end up in the oil, and just one drop carries all of these different molecules into your system. So that's why when I mention all these multiple actions of an essential oil, it's because all of those compounds are present. And lavender works on different neurotransmitters in the brain. And they've also shown studies where it affects the electrical activity in the brain to promote relaxation. So lavender is one of my favorites. I use a diffuser every night with lavender. It helps me sleep. And it's also okay to apply some lavender. I like to do on the perfume points, what I call them, the wrists, and then inhale. And for people who are new to essential oils, you want to take 1 or 2 drops is all you need, because they're very, very concentrated and strong, and you don't want to do too much. And you can dilute it in about a teaspoon of what I call a carrier oil. And this would be an organic oil, organic fatty oil. Essential oils aren't the same as fatty oils like olive oil, jojoba oil. You can think of almond oil. But you want to do organic if you're using therapeutic essential oils, because essential oils drive in compounds. They contain what they call terpenes, and these are actually sometimes used in medicine to drive in topical medication. So you don't want to drive in toxic compounds from beauty care products when you're applying essential oils. You want to drive in healthy things for your skin and for your body.
Oh, that's excellent information. And lavender's one. Now, how would somebody know you're talking about good quality, one that has a full range of constituents? How would someone know one from another? Because you can go on, well, the usual place where you go online to buy things. We won't name that. But they'll have 10 different kinds and different prices, and who knows what's good? How would one know?
It's really, honestly, hard to find really good quality. You have to check with the manufacturer basically and see what they're doing for quality, from basically seed to harvesting to distillation processes. Most of the good companies will have on their website what their quality controls are, what their third-party testings are, how they're validating that they're therapeutic compounds, and not just. With essential oils, organic isn't enough, because organic is just about the farming process. It's not about the manufacturing process to get the active constituents that are the healing properties of the oils. So some companies give you a mass spectrometry, a gas chromatography mass spectrometry. And what that does is it shows you the constituents that are in the oils that are therapeutic. That's okay, but it doesn't tell you if those constituents are synthetic or not. So again, like for me, I actually went to the farms and I looked at some of the essential oils and how they processed and distilled. And some of these companies, a lot of the actually ones that are kind of those, what are they called? The network marketing ones are pretty good quality, I found.
So it varies. It varies greatly.
It does vary, yeah.
So a good thing to do, like with anything, is speak to someone who's deeply studied these things. So, of course, any of our listeners, we're not going to say brands on our show, because we don't do that here at WHPC, since we're a Nassau Community College radio station. But you can certainly listen to our show, click our link for dr-lobisco.com, and then if somebody got in touch with you personally, you would share those things like I would. There's certainly favorite companies that I have in terms of all supplements, and also, like you said, there's such a wide variety, purity, efficacy of testing in the aromatherapy market or the essential oil market. Do you think both of those words are good, because they're kind of the same thing, aromatherapy and essential oil, or do you prefer one over the other?
I think of aromatherapy more for like massage and relaxation. And I think of essential oils for more medicinal, but that's personal, my personal thoughts. I think aromatherapy is a good word too, because you're talking about the therapeutic properties of aroma. So I don't have a problem with it.
Right. And we won't have time, of course, but people can also learn that is so tremendously hooked in to our psyche and who we are. One way to think about that is the example of smelling apple pie baking. Like almost anyone loves that scent with that cinnamon apple kind of scent, but it's not so much just the scent. It triggers memories, often of grandma, for many cultures, not all. Not in the north coast of Jamaica, where we often take people to gather herbs, but a lot of American cultures have apple pie, like they say, but it really becomes a memory that is triggered and brings about feelings of safety and comfort just from the scent.
Yes, and where the aroma passes in the brain is not only to the amygdala in the limbic region, which is the emotional portion, but also to the hippocampus, which is also the memory area. So it's all very connected. And they actually call that the Proust Phenomenon, based on Marcel Proust. When he had that in his book, they talked about when he bit the mandolin biscuit and that linden tea suddenly transported him into his childhood memories. So they call these odor evoked memories in some of the literature is the Proust phenomenon, because it's so obvious when people have that, they walk by and smell fresh baked cookies, or like you said, the apple baked pie, and they have that automatic emotional and physiological effect of the aroma.
Right. So it's a very deep thing. It can help you balance your emotions as well as actually be overtly antimicrobial, which has been such an important thing in our culture lately, where it can actually destroy microorganisms in the air and on surfaces. So something that is a really good thing to learn about. So I want you to share with our listeners good ways to get in touch with you, Dr. Sarah.
Well, they can go to my website, and probably the easiest way, if you can't spell my last name, is if you type in Break Free Medicine, it will bring you to my website. And I also am on all of the social media as far as Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Those are my main ones. And I do have, if you go to my website, I have a separate essential oils website too. It talks about the company that I use, and I have some posts on there and free resources on essential oil information, quality, and I have a whole essential oil database that goes through single essential oils and their science, and then it's also based on different body systems as well as topics. So I think there's over 40 different categories just on that alone, plus the oils on my website.
Wow, that's a great resource. So Break Free Medicine.
Yes.
I looked at that website, and I'm going to more deeply investigate it as well, because that's a wonderful resource to have.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for being our guest today. And thank you, listeners. I want to remind you that you have been listening to Herbally Yours right here on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. Listen live online at nccradio.org or on iHeartRadio and other streaming areas. For more information on today's guest or topic, email us at whpc@ncc.edu. Till next time, this is Ellen Kamai at naturalnurse.com, inviting you to join us once again for another edition of Herbally Yours. Until then, stay healthy.